Hi, I want to talk about some vaccination myths. First, vaccines cause more harm than good. Second, vaccines cause autism. And third, vaccines overload the immune system. First, the idea that vaccines cause more harm than good. Vaccines prevent cases of illness and they prevent deaths. Globally, vaccination prevents 2 to 3 million deaths per year, and if we could increase vaccination rates, we would prevent an additional 1.5 million deaths per year. There are side effects to some vaccines. However, most of these are minor when we're talking about healthy children. Most of the reactions are minor, such as tenderness or swelling at the vaccination site, and they prevent causes of illness and they prevent death. So vaccines, on balance, are much better than getting the illness, and they prevent a lot of cases of injury, illness, and death. So the minor complications that we do have are worth preventing the illness and the death that could result from that. So vaccines do not cause more harm than good. There are some minor reactions, it's always a balance, but on whole, they're beneficial. Second, vaccines cause autism. There is this idea that came out because there was a study by Dr. Wakefield that found a tenuous link between vaccines and autism in a very small sample of children. That study was later retracted because of scientific fraud. It was an unfounded study in the first place with a very small sample size. Since that time, there have been studies using millions of children that have found no link between vaccines and autism. We literally have looked at millions of children and found absolutely no connection between vaccines and autism. And to me, the most compelling information that would say there's no link between vaccines and autism is the fact that families who had a child who was autistic and then did not vaccinate their other children, there's no difference in autism rates among the vaccinated children and the unvaccinated children. So when you look at populations and vaccination rates go down, like happened in England, vaccination rates went way down, cases of measles went way up, autism rates were not affected. So even when you remove vaccinations from a population, that doesn't affect the autism rate. The autism rate is continuing to increase, and it's for reasons unrelated to vaccinations. That to me is the most compelling information that vaccines do not cause autism. What does cause autism? That's hard to say. It's multifaceted, but part of it could be the rising maternal age. We have women who are older and older, and when they have children, and the older you are, the more likely you are to have chromosomal abnormalities of the child. Another is diagnostics. We're looking for these cases of illness. People were autistic 50 years ago, but we didn't have the name for it, and so they probably went undiagnosed. So those are just two of the reasons. It's a multifaceted problem, but we have done studies with millions of children and found no link between vaccines and autism. Third is this idea of vaccine overload. We're going to overload the immune system by giving too many vaccines at once. And this idea came about because we have these multi-vaccines like the Tdap that has tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis all together. It's actually safer to give a vaccine as a combination than individually. If you have a reaction to a vaccine, you're more likely to react to the carrying agent from the vaccine, not the antigen itself. So when you're giving 3 separate vaccines, you're actually increasing the chances that a person would have a reaction to the carrying agent in the vaccine. By combining them together, you're decreasing the chances that a person would have a reaction. Now, what could be bad about that is if a person does have a reaction, you might not know which vaccine the reaction was to. So if you're concerned about a potential reaction, you could try to space out the vaccinations so that you can see which vaccine that the child was reacting to. But on whole, it is safer to give vaccines as combinations because you're most likely to react to the carrying agent. And the idea that vaccines overload the immune system. It's just not true. Our immune systems are immensely capable of responding to illness and to responding to antigens. Just think about your normal day and everything you do in your normal day. You're out interacting with things, you're touching money that other people have touched, you're touching doorknobs, you're touching keyboards, you're in air, you're in elevators that other people were in, that were coughing, that were sneezing. Your immune system encounters thousands, if not millions, of antigens every day. So what we're getting from vaccines is just a drop in the bucket. Offit et al. Examined this idea and looked at the immune system's capacity to respond to antigens. And what they found was that if 11 vaccines were given at the same time, that only 0.1% of the immune system would be, quote, used up. And infants have the theoretical capacity to respond to about 10,000 vaccines at any one time. And it makes sense if you think about all the things we're surrounded about every day. We have germs all around us, and our immune systems are responding to those germs. So what we get from the vaccines is really just a drop in the bucket compared to what we're exposed to in the course of our daily life. This table is a little bit complicated. It's also by Offit et al., and it's illustrating the idea that even though we're getting more vaccinations than we used to, those vaccinations actually contain fewer antigens than they did before. So if you look at 1900, the smallpox vaccine had 200 antigens in it in order to induce immunity. If you looked at the year 2000, all of the vaccines that a child was supposed to get contained 123 to 126 antigens. So all of those vaccines combined had fewer antigens than one vaccine did 100 years ago. So our vaccines have gotten better. We don't need as many antigens to induce immunity as we used to. So the idea that we're overloading the immune system, it's just not true. It's not true because one, our vaccines are better than they used to, so there's very few antigens in the vaccines, and two, our immune system has immense capacity to respond to antigens that it encounters in its daily life. So these are just a couple of vaccination myths that I wanted to address, and hopefully those clear up some questions that you all had.